Welcome back, class. So today is going to be kind of a different lesson because we're going to be working on fluency. And it's hard to do fluency over distance learning. So this one, honestly, there's no way for me to check up on, so I'm putting you guys on your honor system that you do it. Now we're going to be reading about the Shimerdas. So that was a word that I still have trouble remembering, so I can click on it in my text.
Shimerdas.
And it's going to read it for me. So Shimerdas. So let's begin. This is a fictional account, a made-up story in which our character Jim Burden goes to Nebraska to visit his grandparents on their farm. We're going to focus on the importance of reading prose, or reading this text out loud with accuracy, appropriate rate, and expression. So we have this chart right here that I'm going to make a little bigger for us. And it's our elements of fluency. So it's our elements of how we read like it was meant to be read. So our first is what's called our accuracy. So it means reading without missing any words or mistaking any words for other words. So just basically saying the correct words that's written there. Next one's our rate, which is how fast we read. And our last one right here is our expression. So it's our tone that we use when we read. It changes to show how the character or the situation is feeling or being shown. So we might say we use those with punctuation marks like exclamation marks or commas, or we might be reading the scene and seeing, well, this is supposed to be a scary or frightful part, so we're going to try to read in a scary or frightful voice. Now, I'm going to focus on this part, and you guys at the end are going to read it, and I want you to read it out loud. Again, there's no way for me to check, but I do want you to do your best with it. We're going to focus on our first paragraph. So paragraph 1. So study it for a second, and then I am going to read it using our accuracy, rate, and expression. Well, grandmother took the pitchfork we found standing in one of the rows and dug potatoes. While I picked them up out of the soft brown earth and put them into the bag, I kept looking up at the hawks that were doing what I might so easily do. So, not much expression in there. So, I'm going to read it several times, and each time I'm going to get a better idea on what the author's trying to convey. So I'm going to use text clues to find the right expression to use as I read aloud for the second time. Here, for example, I see there's a comma in the second line right here. That usually means the reader should pause briefly. So I'm going to read the sentence again. Well, grandmother took the pitchfork we found standing in one of the rows and dug potatoes. Well, I dug them out of the soft brown earth and put them into the bag. I kept looking up at the hawks that were doing what I might so easily do. So remember, this is our practice, so I'm going to confirm or self-correct to make sure I understood all those words. It's going to make me make sure I read the text accurately and I haven't missed or mistaken any words, so we know what's exactly being said. It's also going to help you from slowing down a particular word, since I've already read through it and I've identified if there's any unfamiliar to me. Now, I don't really know what a pitchfork is maybe, but grandmother is using it to dig potatoes, so I can infer that's a tool used by farmers or gardeners to dig. So I'm probably kind of exhausted while I read this. So let's give it another try. Well, grandmother took the pitchfork we found standing in one of the rows and dug potatoes. Well, I picked them up out of the soft brown earth and put them into the bag. I kept looking up at the hawks that were doing what I might so easily do. So I want you guys to read this out loud. I know it's awkward because I'm not there to hear you and give you feedback, but I want you, while you do it, to think about, how does the comma influence your expression? And are there any other words that are unfamiliar in here? If there are, I want you to go back and look them up. After you've read this one out loud, I want you to just read out loud a couple more paragraphs. So I want you to just read out loud paragraphs 2 through 5 and really focus on those expressions on this chart that we talked about. Alright guys, keep up the good work.